Hello and welcome everyone. We are live. This is the mental health and music panel. Very happy and excited to have this today. We're going to go into some topics about how music affects mental health. And we have some wonderful guests today in the music and sociology realm and just kind of music altogether that we are very much passionate about how it has affected our lives. My name is Camara. I'm an associate producer here at The Mighty, and I help with a few different things. First off, I'm going to say that none of us are therapists, and we are all in kind of the arts field or kind of education field, so that is where our expertise comes from, but we're excited to hear from you. I would like to introduce you to Nadia Vaeh, Arielle Howell, and Brandan O'Neill, our wonderful guests today. And if everyone can kind of give a little introduction, if Nadia, you would like to go first.
Hi, I'm Nadia, and I am a pop singer, and I use my songwriting to heal some of my pain bodies and inspire others to do the same.
Awesome. Brandan?
Hi, I'm Brendan, and I am studying sociology right now, and I am kind of more of a bedroom musician, unlike these fine musicians in this realm.
All good, all good. And how do we feel like music has played a role within, whether we are fully in the music field or not? I kind of wanted to start the conversation off by asking how music has played a role in our life and within our mental health. If Nadia, if you would like to go first.
How music has played a role within my mental health personally. I feel like music has been a major saving grace for my finding my skin and my voice and appreciating who I am and coming back to who I am. Because I feel like we do live in a world that does strip us of our identities, with social media and, the pressure to keep up with the Kardashians. And music is always this constant refuge and has really always been there for me. Not only to just listen to and absorb through other songwriters' works, but also to get out what I feel just being an observer in this world. And honestly, music has saved my life multiple times. So
fantastic. And Brendan?
Yeah, so for me, music is kind of like a time machine, right? It's kind of helps me contextualize where I am now with specific moments that have happened in the past, where it's almost like aroma, where you associate it with certain states of yourself. And it's just a wonderful thing for me.
Awesome. And Arielle, kind of where have you been connected with that in your journey and your mental health?
Yeah, so I'm a singer-songwriter, and really for me, as an artist, or some people in general, just very empathic, as we've said before, or very deep, big feelers. And music for me has given me a way to express how I'm feeling when I don't quite have the words or even process. Sometimes I'll write out a song and I can look and read it and it helps me orient myself, or in a whole other way, it just takes me elsewhere as a means of storytelling and just painting new pictures and creating new things and perspectives that may have not been seen before.
Awesome. And kind of as we go into this, you both are musicians. Brendan will come back on in just a second. But in the industry, how do you feel like mental health is being tackled? I know a lot of people are coming more out with, especially during this time, songs about mental health, bringing awareness to mental health. How do we feel that the industry is taking that on? Do we feel that's working, or what has been your experience with that? And Nadia, you can start.
I will say the conversation of mental health being more integrated into the music industry and people really making it a subject matter of the music that we're now receiving through major artists, I think it's really helpful, and it's helping spearhead a movement that is so needed. And I know that back in our parents' generations, mental health was a taboo conversation. And our generation we're healing a bunch of like generations of wounds, and I think that that's really, really closely tied to the poets of our time, you know, and I think it's huge. And I know since I've incorporated mental health into my own songwriting and my own, like the amount of healing and the growth and just the ability to exist in this world has become so much easier. And, you know, this is a tough place. This is a tough place we live in. That's, you know, how we come together is on that common thread.
Fantastic. And then Arielle, you also are kind of getting into I mean, you have a lot of music that has to do with mental health as well. And you've kind of seen how the industry has worked within that. How do you feel that relates within music and the role?
I mean, I feel like artists in general have noted that the impact that their music has on a certain level, but I feel like now, because of what we're seeing with the pandemic and people having to be quarantined or isolated or looking different for wherever you are, that a lot of artists are now very much more mindful of the impact that their work has, and they're using their platforms in order to make it known. Because at this point, like a lot of people, if you're not socializing, what are you doing? You're going to sit and you're going to watch movies, or I mean, you could still Zoom and FaceTime, but a lot of the time and a lot of my time is spent listening to music. And so music really does have the ability to overstep boundaries for a person and really feed the heart. And like with new songs coming out about anxiety or about emotions or about just people's state of mind or identity, I think it's just being taken a bit more seriously in what's being written, as a lot of artists are coming forth and switching almost what their content is about in order to address what they've noted is becoming a major, not becoming, but is being noticed as a major issue on a larger scale.
That's great. And how do we feel like the songs today are they reflective? I mean, I know we were having a discussion before when we first met about how music can like make us feel and how much power musicians can have with their words, good and bad. I mean, what is like the kind of the good and the bad with that, if we want to kind of balance that? Brandan, I would love for you to go and kind of talk about that from like a listener perspective and a player perspective and a person who's been in bands and kind of studying the sociology behind it. What has been your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, music has power, and it's both can be for negative or good things. Like if you have a memory of something that is associated with, I don't know, something bad that happens with a particular song, or it reminds you of somebody that you were in a relationship with at a particular moment, it might bring up like some states of depression or anxiety. And in other cases, it kind of brings back the whole moment and recreates that memory and just kind of helps you really work through that. And I think that as far as the production of music and how we think about how we gain attention, I mean, everyone has different tastes in music. So listening to like, you know, black metal versus like classical music might trigger completely different responses from people. And how it makes you feel is what's important. So it's kind of like picking genre doesn't really matter.
No, I agree. I think I've seen a lot of different kind of aspects within music that I listen to, and how negative, like there's really sad songs that can really relate to how I'm feeling in certain moments. And there's sometimes when I really shouldn't be listening to them, that they can kind of keep me in that space if I'm not in a good place. I feel like there's like a song that's even by Neon Trees where it's called like there's like a list of songs I can't listen to. And they're talking about that more about like the person who like showed them those songs. But I think in our own lives, we do have songs where it's like that's a song that has a lot of emotion behind it, meaning behind it, that can't really, we have to know when is like comfortable for us to kind of get in touch with. But yeah, Nadia, how has that kind of affected you within, I mean, as being a musician with your writing or with music that you intake?
So there's definitely been certain songs that you can't listen to when you're already in that low place. Like songs that are associated with my mom, like Snow Patrol's "If I Lay Here," or If I lay here, you know, I can't remember if that's the actual song title, but sometimes if I'm already in a fragile state, if that song comes on, like I'm on the floor, like, and there's no guarantee how long I'm gonna be there. But there are other times where that song is so like needed, like I need to hear it. So it depends on the day, the hour, and there also are songs that just like instantly make me feel good, like American Pie. I don't know, like that song just makes me so happy. I just like, woo, that circle storytelling. It's just joyous. And yeah, I think that music has such a weight, like it can really shift your entire day. And that's the beautiful power of the universal language of music.
Agreed. And Arielle, I mean, for you, what are the kind of songs that you kind of tend to go to when you're kind of going through either like feeling sad or going through any kind of mental health challenges? Like, what do you feel like is the right thing to go to, or is there ones that you try not to touch at certain times?
Yeah, I mean, for me, actually, a lot of the time if I'm feeling heavier, sometimes I just, as funny as it sounds, despite the topic, I don't listen to music, but I'll sing my own song where it's just like, no, like I'm gonna sit down and I'm just gonna sing and I'm gonna dance and encourage myself. Or in some cases, I'll listen to more upbeat song. Like I love dancing. It's not like I'm some ballerina or anything, but I'll like totally have a dance party by myself in my room, because I realize for me, posture is really big. And so even if I'm feeling down, if I like stay like this, and there's some science behind it, like power stances some people talk about, but it's just really being discerning, because sometimes a certain song, if I'm feeling down, won't affect me on one day where it might on another day. And so you just have to be, or I, in my case, have to be very aware of like the moods or how the atmosphere changes, because a lot of times even I'll be listening to music without even knowing I'm listening to it. Like I've had it where I'm driving and there's music in the background, and at first I wasn't paying attention, but I realized like I'm super stressed out. Why am I stressed? And I realized like the song is actually really irritating that's playing, and it like has changed the atmosphere for me. So yeah, it's just, I can't say that there's always like a specific go-to, but there is a specific process for me of just listening to my thoughts and listening to my posture. And it's like, if I'm feeling sad, there are times where I do just need to sit and cry and process that. But then there's others where I'm just like, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to sit in this dark room. I'm going to open my window and open my blinds. I don't care if my neighbor sees me, and I'm going to play some music and I'm just going to dance. And usually for me, like that expression of freedom and telling my emotions, like, no, you're there and I see you there, but you can't dominate me. That really changes a lot of attitudes for me.
That's great. I think that dance and music are such a powerful combo that I think a lot of us haven't really been able to do, whether it's together or feel that connection. I think we were talking a little bit before about concerts and how music can bring people together in a way where you're connecting with strangers over items that you wouldn't have connected with or known that you could connect with them, and in like the actual sense, and not having that same connection, but only being able to experience it on your own. Like, how do we feel that kind of whether it's a first world problem or not, it's still a way of connection. Losing concerts right now, being only kind of with yourself or with small pods that we have, what has been that reaction, and kind of how do we feel that's been kind of affecting us in ways, and especially as musicians, how has it been affecting both of you and Brennan and me, and you as concert goers, and also you as a performer? Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I mean, I usually when I dance, people run away, so I kind of have to do it in privacy. But at concerts, it's interesting because I always feel like you become part of like one body when you're there. So if you think about it in like group networks, right? You have like when music plays, something happens. It makes you dance. It makes you go in like unison with others and kind of just lose a little bit of yourself in it, which I think is an incredibly healthy thing for the mind and spirit, to kind of just, I don't know, like release your brain from controlling every situation and just kind of like become this one body for a few minutes and enjoy what you love, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The connection of that is really missed, like being able to kind of see people just be vulnerable with themselves in a space. I mean, how has it been for you, Nadia? Like I know that performing and concerts were really big for you. You were really like getting on the touring track. Like, how has that been for you mentally?
So it's definitely been tough. But I did just do a live show last night, and like not having it for this long was just made it all the more magical. Like just I think people were more appreciative too, because they haven't had the live music in a long time.
Yeah.
And it was just good to get back out there. But I will say the positive side of it is I needed to focus on getting more connected to my body before I went back to performing. And the difference is night and day from what I did last night, from what was coming out of me. Like I'm more open, like you said, posture, Arielle, like I tend to like, you know, because we're empaths, we like protect ourselves, you know, and I felt a lot more open performing, and I had more breath control because of it. And my anxiety levels were a lot lower. I was breathing from my belly instead of my chest. So it was really nice to just see the butterfly effect of this time. Like, and I think that when we do come together and we are dancing all in the, you know, club or at the concerts, it's going to be an even deeper experience. So I'm excited.
Agreed. And Arielle, I mean, you were performing as well. I've seen you perform before, and it is a magical experience, just as it is for Nadia. What has that been for you? Like, kind of not really being able to like go out and kind of see, whether it's seeing music or performing. How do you feel like that's kind of affected the space mentally?
I have to agree with Nadia to a certain extent. Like, I know quarantine definitely has its it's all about perspective. There's cool things that came out of it, and sometimes there's like there's a lot of frustration. But I just really needed the time of not really doing anything, of just being able to sit with myself and reflect on myself and my own health, and to pour time into just like, you know, who am I, and what do I actually believe about who I am, and how has that impacted how I've actually functioned in community circles. And to, you know, because insecurity is a big thing, especially with music. We were just like, like I messed up there or here, just how you're presenting yourself. And I think I really needed it. I needed the time to reflect on myself and just become comfortable in my own skin. And now it's a thing where more of the frustration for community is coming now, because I'm so much more comfortable in myself. And like that I've had the excusable time. That's the good part, is like there wasn't any pressure of like, you should go to work because I lost my job. So it's like, no, actually there's no pressure, and it's okay because everyone's going through this, and I can actually sit here without being told that I should be doing something else. And now I've noted, because a few coffee shops here and there are doing live music distanced outside, and I go and I feel so much more free to dance. Like I just feel so good, and I'm almost eager to participate more so in community and in my music, because I'm just comfortable with who I am and like belonging in a space just because I'm there. That's what makes me belong, is like, you know, I say so and I came, so I belong here, and this is great. So if you don't like my dance moves and you want to run, cool. Just like don't trip or anything, you know. Over there with your mask on.
If you turn it into a dance move.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the nice thing, is like right now we just kind of get to Billy Idol it and just dancing with ourselves and enjoying that time and reflecting. And I think it's been a good, like that's when I think one of the positives maybe is reflecting and being able to kind of have this time with ourselves with music, and to take a break from like the fast pacedness, whether we're in the music industry or not, but just having that time to really also be grateful for what we have and for the experiences we get to have, and we will still get to have in the future. And just kind of, I think that there's still ways to find new music and ways to kind of go forward with that as well. I mean, I find new music on Spotify Discover weekly still, and it always just surprises me. And it's nice that I'm like, I don't know if I would do this as much if I was like going to just the shows that I know regularly, if I was going to have that time to reflect. I think that that's been a pretty good time. I see in the comments, I just want to kind of acknowledge, like, thank you, Cherise, for asking us how we're doing. I hope you're doing well. And that, yeah, music in the stereo is louder than someone else's car. Yeah, it's always loud. It's a good time. I see that Allison is talking about how the lockdown, you fully understand, but kind of having a different breakdowns and like basically having the gym being taken away is something you really need, especially going through like a breakup. I can understand that would be really rough, especially if the gym is your safe space. And also the gym is a place where we can go to listen to music and go to kind of zone out. I mean, is there a space where you would normally be going to listen to music that we don't have right now besides concerts, whether it be a gym or a different arena or a different place that is not the norm, like whether even if it's at work? Brendan, if you want to kind of talk about maybe how music listening has changed now with the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, we find music in so many spaces, like not like we go shopping, we go anywhere. There's always music in the background. There's always a backdrop. And I've always wanted to have like my own theme music, like some sounds of like something thumping as I walk. But mostly, I mean, I if I'm not like working or something for my computer, I'll have music on then, but also I'll go for like long walks and I'll just put on some headphones and, go on my Spotify or whatever and just kind of listen to things. It might not even be like, music. It could be like, ASMR sounds, like some like raindrops or thunder or something like that. Because, you can find like natural rhythms in how we just even listen to what happens in nature. And that has a certain effect in how we process the given now. And as far as like working out, I mean, yeah, pop in some headphones, go for a run with something with a good beat. I usually make it about 3 feet and then I fall over because I'm not a runner. But yeah, I think mostly for me though, it's like either in a car ride or just going for a walk with headphones. And that's my way of kind of like escaping from the day during the pandemic.
No, I agree with that. I think I take a lot of power walks where I'm envisioning myself dancing or something. I miss dance classes. That's where I miss listening to music, is just going to a class and being able to do that. But going through a grocery store and having that background sound, it's great that you already have, what your theme song would be. I think that we all need to kind of get on top of that. I like that a lot. But kind of on that note, as we kind of figure out what music can do now, how do we feel after the pandemic when things have cleared up? Where do we want the future of the industry to take? Basically, I guess, social activism within mental health through music. How do we feel that can be effective and in a societal way as well? Nadia, if you want to go.
So you're saying for the musicians and for the music industry?
Yeah.
Okay. I do feel like this pandemic is raising, musicians and artists are really sensitive people, and there hasn't been a lot of acknowledgement of that fact in the past, but I do think the pandemic is raising awareness for that. And as a result, I think there's going to be some shifts. Like, we don't have a union. Musicians don't have a union. We don't have there's a lot of organizations and things that provide aid, like Music Cares and things like that. But I do feel like this, catastrophic event in history is paving the way for maybe something that can be a little more collectively helpful and provide resources for artists to be able to continue to be the voice of the times.
Yeah, no, I never thought about that. I'm like, musicians don't have unions really, or don't have besides if they have a record label who hopefully is nice to them or not, there's not protections put in place. We don't think about that when it comes to the arts and how important that is to our health and such.
And
I think
there's so much abuse, mental abuse that you go through in the industry, between mistreatment with producers and labels, and you have to there's a lot of struggle that just occurs from being in the industry, because it's a pretty toxic industry. It's a great industry too, but yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, Arielle, if you want to piggyback off of that, with your experience and what you would hope for the future with.
Yeah, I think at least in some of the shifts that I've already seen, at least from the musicians' end, is things have become a lot more independent friendly because a lot of artists are left to themselves. And I've always been with myself to do music, you know? So I've noticed how more resources are becoming available on like how to do it yourself, how to get it done yourself. And I mean, there's a lot of pressures that come with that if you're stepping into something new. Like there's a lot of new things I've learned, and trying to like function with all these different elements sometimes can be frustrating when all you want to do is create, but I feel like it's becoming a lot more user friendly. There's a lot more clarity on how to get things done yourself. And because of that, at least on my end and speaking to some of my music friends, it leads to a lot more mental health for that individual who isn't so much bound to a certain thing, where it's like there's these regulations where you have to meet this requirement for us to do this for you, and all this pressure. And pressure usually in a lot of cases is what causes just a lot of poor thoughts of like, oh, I'm not completing anything, like, oh, because I'm not doing this, I'm like worthless if I don't do this, I'm not valuable, or all this other stuff. And so I think because of how like the direction things are going, and with healthier artists and healthier musicians, the output is different, and even the atmosphere is different, because a lot of where creativity comes from is the depth of the person, you know? And I mean, you have some other songs like talking about other things that I don't know if that came from a depth of a person, but at least in some circles, and maybe even in a larger circle, that's something we'll see more of. And also just the eagerness to participate. I think that shifts a lot of things, because you don't know what you got till it's gone. And now that it's been taken away, once it's given back in whatever way that looks like, it's just going to be so much more thrilling. It's going to taste a lot better. People's senses are going to be so much more open. And so I can't say what it will look like, but I can say it's going to be pretty different.
And I think that's important to think about too, the depth of each of us and how that starts. It's really important that we are all kind of human in a way, and even musicians, we think that art isn't always just as important, or always that we can figure out the depths of what we feel within kind of ourselves, and how we process this time, and how we process music, and how we can go further in the future. I wanted to bring this over to kind of a conversation about music therapy. I know none of us are music therapists, but I feel like we've all kind of grown up with music in some kind of a way in our life, and music has played a role, at least I would think, in our health and in our mental health growing up as well. So I wanted to know, growing up, how did music affect each of you? Like, what was that role, and how do you feel growing up it played a part in your life? Nadia, if you want to start.
Music was always there for me. I was kind of a loner. My sisters had a very strong bond. They're twins. I love them, but I was always the odd one out. And I was that loner kid, like you said, Arielle. Like I would spend a lot of time by myself, and music was my friend and kept me great company. And it was very therapeutic for me. You know, there are songs that could communicate what I was feeling in my loneliness or in my happiness or whatever, you know, that I couldn't quite articulate because I didn't necessarily have a place to articulate it or someone to articulate it to. And it served as my therapist for sure growing up. So.
Yeah. And Brandan, I mean, obviously you've grown up playing music and being in bands, and also from a young age, like how did you start? What role did music play for you?
Right. For some reason, I was like obsessed with Elvis Presley when I was like 8 years old, and I have no idea why. But it made me want to play the guitar, which when I picked up, it kind of allowed me, I think, I have 3 older sisters, and you know, there's always a lot of chatter in that space. And I think that playing the guitar allowed me to kind of like express myself emotionally and in like a language that wasn't in a way where I had to be like so outright and kind of, it's almost like a prosthetic apparatus that allows me to speak in like my emotions and my feelings without having to say it outright and then being like maybe scrutinized for saying it because, you know, you're like the younger of a bunch of older people. So it's kind of like a protective device in a way. And even now to this day, it's like my break from reality. It's like kind of like you just zone out for a little while. And I can get really frustrated with myself too. I'm like, why am I playing this chord change over and over again? Like, I have no idea why. And then I have to put it down and come back to it to feel like creativity spark again. But it's definitely a break from the norm that, like, I don't know, just allows me to speak in a different way.
Yeah, it's like a different language in a way that you kind of have gotten to learn growing up. I mean, what would you think on the subject, Arielle?
Even just the question just made me excited. Because just thinking about music, or just art in general, it just makes me giddy. And gosh, like even now, because the reason I do music sometimes is because I can't articulate, so wish me luck. But yeah, it's just such an intimate, beautiful thing. And I mean, it can take something so ugly and just make it so beautiful. And for me too, it's just a big connection with my dad, because my dad's a musician also. And I've just been very blessed to have the parents I have. But he never forced anything on me. He's the type of guy to leave instruments laying around, and if we pick it up, he's there to encourage us, but not to force us. And yeah, like I just grew up singing Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell in the car with my dad. And that's a way that we've just really bonded. And then just for me in general, like I just even remember in elementary school, like crying, listening to scores and stuff, just because it's just so adventurous and it just takes you places. And I just have such a craving for adventure. Like backpacking and hiking or whatever. And when I can't leave, sometimes if I just play a song and I just go sit, or I'll turn my fan on like to feel like a cool breeze, and I just close my eyes and it literally just takes me elsewhere. So just, yeah, like I'm just like super excited because that's just what music does. It just takes you wherever that you allow your imagination to take you. And even in creating, sometimes I've had late nights where it's like 3 a.m. and I'm recording a guitar track and then I finish it and I'm like, okay, I'm done. But then I hear piano and then I put that down and it's 6 a.m. Then I go to sleep and wake up later in the afternoon to listen to whatever came out. And I'm like, whoa, like that came out of my brain. Like, it's such a mysterious, surprising thing. It's just an adventure always there whenever you sit down. Yeah, I could ramble forever, but yeah, that's just music for me in my life, really.
I love the adventure aspect of that because you can get away in a song in a way. It is like a different world that you can sit in, put headphones or even put your stereo on and have that. And having that growing up, like that your dad was just so open to like letting music be a part of your life and also like being open to like showing you and such. I think that that's very valuable. I know growing up, I'm not a musician myself, but my mom really wanted me to learn how to play piano because she thought I'd be good at math if I played piano, that whole saying. And I do remember like I had I loved the time that I got to have my piano lessons because the piano teacher that I had, like he was also our school's our elementary school's piano teacher. And I just thought it was so cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to have the elementary school's piano teacher come over to our house and teach me piano. Like, so cool. And I think I took that time to be therapy because I know half the time I was playing and half the time I was talking to him about the music and then about certain things that connected to the music for me. And I reflect back on it now. I'm like, I think that even though I don't play piano now or not as much, I still took that as therapy as a child. I think that was still part of my life and is still part of my mental health journey growing up. And I think it's really important to have figures around, whether it's a teacher, a parent who is instilling that and letting you find a different avenue to explore your emotions, I think is really valid. Yeah, that's my little thing I wanted to say. I would like to bring up a comment that we have on YouTube, that since the pandemic, I've been much more connected to the musical artists, both amateur and professional, as opposed to unreachable artists. I think that's really cool. It seems like you have more opportunities right now, or you've been giving yourself more opportunity to find new artists and take that time. And I think that that's something I've noticed for myself and for others as well. Especially with platforms like Spotify and such, there's just more like non-judgment about finding something new and looking for something new. I think in this time, I don't know, how would you say like in finding new music right now, or if you have been in down the music pipe, what have you been leaning towards, or how have you found music during this time that maybe you didn't before? Brendan, if you want to start.
Yeah, my favorite method, and I hope that it happens more often because I said it here, but I love looking at artists that I love on Spotify and particularly going to their personal playlist. And I have noticed that since the pandemic, that a lot of artists that I listen to have been putting up more and more playlists with more and more new artists and music. And that has been the most successful way I've found stuff. And a lot of it would be like surprising too, because you get a new way to look at the artists that you like, because they might be listening to like some genre that has nothing to do with what they produce. And it might really turn you on to something completely new and different. And that is my tried and true method for finding music that I love. And I've been doing it for years.
That's so cool. I haven't really thought about that. Like, I know I go on Spotify Discover. I look at artists that are similar to like that Spotify recommends from the musicians I listen to, but I've never thought about going to the actual playlist that they like recommend. That's, oh my word. I can't believe I haven't done that. I mean, Nadia, Arielle, have you done similar things, or what? Am I just out of the loop?
I don't know why I didn't do that. I'm sitting here like, duh.
It's brilliant.
I get bored. Like I love the artists that I listen to, but sometimes I'm just like so dissatisfied. You know, I feel like I'm nutrient deficient in something, and it's like I'm eating everything and I can't figure out why I'm drowsy. And it's like, gosh, like why can't I figure it out? And it's like, duh, why don't I listen to the playlists? Yeah.
Well, how do, Arielle, I'll go back to you. How do you find music? Like what's been you found some new stuff during this time, or how has that been for you?
Have the other features of Spotify. So Spotify is definitely a space where I discover new music, where it's like I'll do the Discover Weekly, or I'll listen to the radio. You know how they come up with the radios based on artists. And a lot of other times too, I'm just attentive if I'm out somewhere or if I'm watching a movie or something. I'm super attentive to the sounds, and it's like I'll hear an artist and I'm like, oh, whoa, what is that? And I'll go look them up and just explore the artist, or just in conversation. I'm always curious about other musicians and what they're listening to. And like I actually had a neighbor moving down the street, and he's a musician also. And we just kind of like met and started talking, and he's been giving me this list of artists that he's been excited about. And music is a love language. So I'm totally eating it up and listening to everything he drops. So yeah.
It's like becoming connected even more during this time. I like that. I like that a lot. And I just want to say that we have a listener or watcher who is like, Spotify is my daily life. I call it my music Bible. I'm like, yes. Agreed. I completely agree. I really like Spotify. I like their platform. I like their app. I think it's very also mental health oriented, friendly. I think it's very, I don't know how the dark colors on it just work for me. I like it. I know. Also, I like that you can't see, unless they're like high views, you can't always see the views of things. More likely podcasts, but I mean, in certain songs, you don't see like the exact number sometimes. And I think that's kind of more healthy. But Nadia, how have you been finding new music during this time, or even and then yourself getting connected?
I definitely am a Shazam queen. I'll be in the grocery store. I'll be in wherever I hear something I like, I'll Shazam. And then also my artist friends, they are always sharing really good indie stuff, and then they also are making amazing indie stuff. Arielle, I'm gonna be checking you out. And that, I think, just being in the industry and like being around a bunch of indie kids, like you like almost have the inside scoop on the good goodies. So
that's really cool. I like that. Yeah, you got the inside scoop. You've got a connection to some of the other indie music going on, and I think that's
and then you
nice.
Like know them personally, and it makes it even more.
It feels
cool.
more personal. Yeah, when you know, like when you've like met the musician a little bit, or know, like I think some of my favorite bands are ones that I've met personally before they got really big, and I kind of knew them on a personal level, not like too much, but I'm like, oh, I know you. I know you're like a nice person, and I got to see you before you were big, or like it just feels special. It's like I kind of know that person, or I'm friends with that person. I can understand where that music is coming from. I think is really cool. I see we have a question from Vixen Chips. Is the pandemic causing mental health issues or exacerbating existing issues? How can music help? So from each of our standpoints, how do we feel music? Well, first off, how do we feel from our own general standpoints? We are not music therapists or therapists, but what do we feel is the answer to this question a little bit? Who would like to go first? I'm not going to pick anyone.
I read this actually a little earlier in the comments, and I was like, that's really good.
Yeah.
I feel like it's both those things, but above all, it's exposing what's been there. So an example to bring in is just the whole thing with racism and like things that happening on the news, like the killings and stuff. Like, it's not good, but it's not like it was a new thing. But because people didn't have their daily ritual of routine to forget about things and to get lost into in order to put their emotions aside or just to forget, they're left with themselves and left with their thoughts, and they're actually left to ponder an actual issue. So I feel like in a lot of cases, it's the same with like mental health, even myself and my own journey of just becoming more comfortable in myself and identity and addressing insecurity. If I still had my daily everyday thing going on, like teaching in the morning, doing this and then filling up my schedule, I would have never been still enough to actually just hear my thoughts. I'd only be treating some of the symptoms that spark on the surface of my emotions here and there, as opposed to actually getting to the root of an issue. So I feel like the pandemic, because of the standstill, has really allowed things to shake off the dust of just the rapid moving for us to actually address what's been there.
Yeah, I agree. There's like a lot of stuff that we didn't have time to pay attention to. Like there's new stuff too, obviously, but and there's people who've never really thought about their mental health before and then thought about the issues that are going on in the world before and now are faced with them. But I think it is a lot exacerbating issues that we just haven't paid attention to for long enough. But Brendan, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah. First of all, Fish and Chips, I love the dog pick and makes me very happy. And second of all, yes, the pandemic is causing mental health issues. Just today, I read a French survey was done that students that are learning virtually right now are definitely experiencing high amounts of depression and anxiety. And as far as how can music help, I think it's a two-sided answer depending on if you are a maker of music or a listener of music. And if you are a maker of music, if you are, let's say, like a solo singer, this might be a little different, or a solo songwriter. But if you're a group kind of player, this has kind of really impacted the way that you find community through music, because you're kind of limited to being in a room. I mean, obviously you still can, but it's a little bit different as far as being accepted to be like in a group of people playing music together. And as far as how it can help from the other side would be, yes, it can help a lot. I mean, since the beginning of the world in different cultures, ancient Greece, religions all over the world, music has been used as a healing tool to alleviate stress. And whatever your poison is that alleviates that stress, you should listen to it. And no one should tell you what that is, because your music is personal for what you like and your own taste. So yeah, I think just actively listening to music is a good way to do it.
Right. And then Nadia, what about you? What is your perspective on this?
I definitely think the pandemic is not only causing mental health issues, but also bringing and bubbling up to the surface things that were always there, pain bodies that maybe we just weren't willing to look at or just didn't have the time to look at. And I know for me, the amount of healing that has occurred in this year would have probably taken a course of maybe 4 or 5 years, just because I've had this time to zero in on the things that are there. And they'll always be there, but we're given the time and the tools now to really look at them. And I do feel like music is an amazing healer. As a creator, it gives me a space to like exercise out what I'm going through and what I'm feeling. And it also gives me the ability to meet with collaborators and find common ground. And that in itself is healing, and just being open about like, hey, I'm struggling with this. This is something that's not working for me, or that it, the more we keep it bottled inside, then it just gets stored in our bodies and our posture. And like you said, Brandan, there's different music for different people. Like for me, metal music actually kind of relaxes me sometimes. I'm just like, I just need this like grit, and I just need to go. Ugh. But then sometimes I need that classical like zen to just get rid of some of my anxieties, or I just need a good pop song to dance to in my living room. And all of these different genres provide different things at different times depending upon what's going on. And it's the ultimate healer.
Agreed. And then going back to the music therapy element, have any of you heard of music therapy as like therapy, or just the term? Have you connected with that before?
I've never really looked deeply into it, but the most I know about it was because for a minute I was on the road to med school because I was a biology major pre-med. And so after I took my gap year, like I was thinking about what should I do? And everyone's like, well, music and medicine, why don't you just put it together and music therapy? But I never really have heard much about it or what it is. I just have like my own ideas of what it might be.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of still general and a little bit more like there's different interpretations of it, where I know from like the Music Therapy Association, I think of America, they said it's an evidence-based clinical use of musical interventions to improve clients' quality of life, promoting wellness, stress management, alleviating pain, expressing feelings, enhancing memory, improving communication, promoting physical rehabilitation. I mean, I feel like that's kind of stuff we've been talking about, is how music can actually be a really great tool. Like even like the Mozart effect, people talk about the unusual, my mom's thing of mathematic ability when you are good at music, and like a study that University of California, Irvine did, and investigating how listening to music can affect our cognitive behavior and kind of spatial reasoning as well. I think that there should be more studies into that and kind of seen, but like what has been, I guess, have you, Brandan and Nadia, have you heard of that term, and what does that kind of mean to you?
Yeah, I can go. So yeah, I have heard of music therapy. I have not engaged with it personally. I think I've self-medicated with music therapy. I know from a professional level though that I've read a couple things where it's been extremely beneficial for finding communication tools and activities for people that need it or require it. And I've read some really great things about that. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question? Or the
like
first half
basically,
of that question?
No, the first half was have you heard of it, and just like what does that mean to you?
Right. I definitely would do it if push came to shove and I was ready to do that sort of a thing. Yeah.
Oh, Nadia?
I've definitely heard of music therapy, and I've heard of instances too with like elderly, like Alzheimer dementia patients, like ecstatic dance and movement, and how it can be super contributive to connecting pathways in their minds that are deteriorating. And my grandfather had Alzheimer's, so I always do make a point to get out there and dance, because choreography is great, but there's something to be said about just freestyling. And that's why sometimes I'll just pick a song that I've never heard before and I put it on. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. I actually at one point was considering, like when I was in school for marketing, before I was like, no, I'm a musician. Come on, really. I considered like going into music therapy because I knew I wanted to do music, but the logical side of my Lebanese family, I was like, well, maybe I should do like, something more serious. And I considered doing that. And, if I didn't do music, because I consider, being a musician and the kind of, music I strive to make, I consider myself a healer. So if I didn't do it as a performer or as an artist, I would look into something like that. Holistic medicine.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
I like that. No, I like that you've thought about it. You've kind of gone into it. And I see like we've got a lot of, I want to kind of go through some of our comments that we have. Lionel, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but you said, for me, I think that music can help you not feel alone and relate to what you feel and get you out of what you feel. I think that's interesting to kind of hear that, like it gets you in, can relate, and also pull you out depending on where you are. And I think we were talking about that earlier, about certain music can really pull us in and help us, and then in certain moments we maybe want an opposite of that to kind of pull us out. I like that a lot. If we want to like maybe talk like very briefly about like how the balance, how do we find a good balance of what is upbeat, or what is genre even to us mean? I know that yesterday, Arielle, you were talking about how music can be a little bit more like dictating, like we feel like we have to pick who we are through music, like whether it's we listen to one certain genre, that doesn't really mean that that's the only like person we are, or whether you're a musician just because you sing folk, or like doesn't mean you're one way, or just because you sing R&B or rap R&B doesn't mean you are that one like identifier. And I feel like I think that that's a little bit of a mold in music right now, is can you be more than one thing? Why does it have to be or even listening, do you have to just be one genre person?
Yeah, I know for sure in my listening, I'm a content over genre person. I'm more about like, what are you singing about? Like you can be screaming at me, here we go, I speak English. Screaming it at me in metal, because I actually do. I like metal. It's fun. And it's like metal concerts are some of the most fun, just people pushing each other around. But then it's like, if I'm going to listen to, just because it's like a really nice acoustic folky song, it's like, what are you singing over me? What are you putting into my heart? Because music has this ability to just overstep people's boundaries. People put their boundaries down in the face of art. Like something that I want to talk about in conversation, someone has more guards up than they do if they're listening to a song. They let a song feed them, you know? And so in a similar way, when it comes to identity, with art, it's so interesting when people ask like, well, like, yeah, what's your genre? Like you have two options, you know, if you're filling out like an artist thing for Spotify or something, it's like, pick your two genres. And I'm like, why? Like, can someone just listen and just enjoy it? And I know it's for the sake of like finding you and to put you with artists that are similar. To an extent, it makes sense, but sometimes it's a little frustrating, and it's like singer-songwriter, and like, yeah, sometimes I'll rap to like this country sounding song because I want to. Like, what are we gonna call it? Like, it's not COVID.
All good.
I just like inhaled.
But we have to be able to freely cough in our own homes without it being COVID. With that,
yeah. I think that's just like categorization and listening to a certain type of music, thinking you have to identify in a certain way. Like I mentioned before, you see me with an acoustic guitar, black girl, someone's going to say R&B. You see blonde girl with a guitar, someone's going to say, oh, folk, indie. And it's just like, well, actually, it's funny. She actually spit some verses and I'm over here singing Dolly Parton. Like, it's just like the way you just assume things. And so in light of the question that you did highlight, though, like getting you out of how you feel, just like I mentioned before, it's a discernment. It's one song one day might be okay, but that same song the next day might not be. So it's just being aware enough to note in yourself, like, ooh, this is actually shifting the atmosphere. Like, I don't need to listen to that. It's just like one day, like, yeah, Metallica's cool. I'm not road raging. The other day, like, it's just a bad day of traffic and I'm mad at everybody. And I realize the music is setting me off. You know, it's just being aware of like when it's putting you in a hole and where you have to just turn it off to prevent yourself from falling into it. Not that you'll get stuck there forever, but sometimes it's like, why give yourself the issue of having to get out of something in the first place? You know?
Exactly. I feel that. I wanted to actually move this along a little bit. We're running a little bit out of time, unfortunately, which there's so much we can go into within music, of course. But I see a really just nice question, I feel like, before we promote what is going on. What song, Lionel was asking, helps you through every day? Is there like a specific song that everyone here goes like is a go-to that would help, kind of an everyday song? If
Such
ever
a
wants
hard
to
question.
I'm like, one song?
Dread came over me when I saw that question. I was like, that's a good question that I do not have an answer to.
I need like 10 more hours for this question.
Let me go dig through Spotify for
I
those.
know, like,
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
I can go. I actually was just listening to Still Feel by Half Alive, and that song still bops, still slaps really well, and still hits well. And I'm like, yeah, when I like I still feel alive. When it feels hopeless, like I start to notice, like I still feel alive. Like that's kind of what I need right now sometimes, is to kind of feel that like you can feel low, but there's still, it's like that the ability to have a song that can explain how you feel, but also uplift you, not just keep you there. And I think, like Arielle, you were talking about that yesterday, about having like an uplifting, I will pull into your song is kind of this uplifting, but emotional kind of put song with that as well. So.
Camera, that's a good song. You introduced me to that song when I first moved to LA. That's a, yeah.
The song that never ends. Oh, do you know that song, Racer? Do you know this song? I would love to know. Yeah, that's a song for me. But before we get into our final songs, I will let both of you think about that. In the meantime, I would love to promote Nadia and Arielle. I know you both have songs out right now, or one, Arielle, yours is coming out very soon, that are mental health related, that we would love to share with our audience. And I'll share right now that Nadia, you have a song out called Anxiety. If you want to give a quick blurb about that.
Thank you. So I wrote that song last year when I really began taking a look at my anxiety issues, because I realized they were taking over my life and I wasn't properly handling them. And then pandemic happened and was like, yo, you may have written that song, but you're really going to look into this, okay? And I started revisiting it and looking into tracking it and like reworking some of the melodies. And honestly, writing and releasing the song has been super healing. I feel like a lot of the anxiety issues I've had, like with social setting, like doing something like this, have been mitigated and healed just by putting myself out there in that way and be like, hey, I struggle with this. And then, you know what? You struggle with this? Okay, cool. All right. We're anxious. It's an anxious world. Okay. Just getting to kind of like depict what an anxiety attack feels like, or what being in an anxious state or an anxious person feels like in the song lyrics, I think has helped me also connect with my family on a deeper level, because they maybe didn't understand why I have the struggles that I have. And yeah, it's been really cathartic to release this song and to create it.
That's great. Well, yeah, everyone go check out Anxiety by Nadia. It's on Spotify, Apple. I only listen on Spotify, so that's all I would know. It's a great song. I really love it. It's in my mental health playlist, so definitely go check it out. And then Arielle, tell us a little bit about your song. I'm trying to find where it is in my little link. Okay, here we go. Wolves, if you want to like touch on that.
Yeah, so honestly, but similarly to Nadia, that song is like it is my debut single, the first one that I'm actually like releasing aside from just like performing and putting something on YouTube from some coffee shop gig. But yeah, it's declarative of just not being ruled by my emotions anymore. It's like I feel them and they're there, but they can't, I'm not going to let them take advantage of me anymore. I'm going to tell them where they're going and what I'm going to use them for, as opposed to them telling me like, nope, like you have to stay here and you can't move. So Wolves is about that. It's metaphorical. Wolves being emotions, and like there's a line in it. I hear them howling in the dead of night to shake my bones. I might be frightened, but I'll never run. And the point of that is like, no, I can hear it and it's there. It's not a matter of it not being there anymore, but it's a matter of like, in the face of this, what I'm going to do? What am I going to do? So it's like same thing before a show. If I'm feeling like super anxious or nervous or sweaty palms, or even like in a conversation like this, like I start sweating, it's like, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to run anymore. So Wolves is really just like this picture I paint about that. And yeah, on the site or the link, you could even see like the shoot I got to do with it up in the forest in Washington. And it just like really depicts that kind of like feeling of feeling isolated and alone in a big dark forest, but knowing that light, actually, whether or not I have a flashlight, is within me to shine outward, all in like perspective or in action. And so, yeah, I guess in a nutshell, that's what that song's about. And I'm pretty stoked about it, not even because of responses I may or may not get, but because of what it means for me to like actually just release this and to let it go. And yeah.
I think that's amazing, and I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to listen, and just everything you've talked about with it is very exciting. So everyone who's watching, please go check out Wolves on October 28th, and you can pre-save it now. We would love to show that support, and it's going to be, as I've seen, wonderful work from both these artists. So I'm very excited for what's to come. And then Brandan, if you want to talk about like what you are working on within sociology really quick, or what song you can give your mental health recommendation song to us now.
Sure. For sociology right now, I'm working on a project of how attention and identities are produced through the art world during COVID-19. It's kind of an extension of one of my friend's projects, which is called Ecologies of the Gaze. And it's just thinking about how we pay attention to art, especially now as it's changing, and how producing that art, how this collaborative identities from across the world has changed, because people are all over the place now, and they're collaborating in a different way through different mediums. And that could be related to music or, mixed media arts. And for music, though, a song that helps me every day, I think would have to be Clair de Lune by Debussy, because it's like one of those songs that always puts me in this like transcendental state. There's something about like the tonal inflections of the song and the melodic and harmonic movements of it that kind of just, I don't know, it makes me feel like I'm like a baby again with less hair than I do have now.
That's amazing. Oh my word. I'm going to put in the song again because I see someone in the comments wants the songs. But that's amazing. And I also love what you're working on. And this is for, you're at Columbia right now, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. There we go. I'll put back in Arielle's song. But no, I think that project sounds fantastic. And like, I'm really glad that you're going into that. And the song, obviously, that you just described, like, I want to go listen to it right now because it sounds just like I'm going to go be taken to a world of wonder. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So I noticed that in the update or in the comments that you can find the song. So the link, ariellehowell.com/wolves, will take you to my single page. And there you have access to the pre-save links. So Spotify actually lets you pre-save the song. So there should be a list, like you'll see Amazon, Spotify, and iTunes, and whatever platforms it's officially loaded on. And so Spotify, you can pre-save it. With iTunes, you have to wait until the 28th to be able to even access the song. So if you do have Spotify, go ahead and click that, and then you'll have to go through there and you'll see it the moment it drops. Yeah.
Cool. Just wanted to put that resource that, thank you, everyone. I want to just go through the comments one last time to just say thank you. I mean, thank you to Lynn in France. I mean, I really appreciate you. You commented a lot and talking about music connecting with you and connecting now with, especially within mental health, and how the mighty and music keeps you going. We're very appreciative of you and thank you so much. And Racer, Racer's on a lot of lives. We love Racer. Racer's great. And yeah, Wolves, probably. Pack's not alone. Yeah. We're in a pack right now. We're in a wonderful pack. We've just had such a wonderful conversation. I'm so happy. Thank you for and going over time with us. Like, I really appreciate all of your time, Nadia, Arielle, and Brandan. Thank you so much for spending the time. If you have any last words, let me know. But we're going to wrap this up now. I really hope that everyone in the comments is doing all right, and just kind of take the time today to find some music that really helps with your mental health, and look into music therapy and just see how music can impact for you. And so, yeah, music's a powerful thing. Any last words, everyone?
Thank you so much for hosting this and having us. It was really fun and nice to connect with new people. And really just healing.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. This has been such a fun conversation. I really appreciate everyone else. Check out Nadia's song. Check out Arielle's song. Check out Brendan's study if it's ever available. We'll figure out, check out all the music that we talked about today, and take care, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great day.